Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 622nd episode of the GeekVerse podcast. More importantly, the Quiet Place, or sorry, I guess it's A Quiet Place, day one, not the Quiet Place, not Quiet Place. So I'll have to fix that later for SEO reasons. But I am the Clown Prince of Noises, Tress now, and I'm joined by.
I'm the puppeteer, Dylan Moss.
The feline at Taylor Field.
What was that hand signal you're throwing up there? What does that have to do with feline?
I like the rhyme scheme of feline field. That works nicely.
Does it really?
That could be
Feline
your
Field.
villain name or hero name.
I got 3 cats, so
There you go. Why stop there? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to review A Quiet Place, day one, as I just said, and based on the nicknames. Lots of stuff on the feeds. We got newscasts, we got reviews for The Boys, Acolyte, House of Dragon. We got side quests, a weekly game show every week. So go check all those things out, and there's a lot of other things that I'll talk about later. And then most importantly, I won't do the whole spiel, but GeekVerse Day is happening August 3rd. We are doing a 9-hour stream in honor of our 9-year anniversary, 4 events, and it's something that if you can go to that day and jump on the Patreon or up your tier, the stream goes even longer. We'll announce some of those stretch goals later on. But if I haven't pinned it yet, but by the time this cast on Facebook and Twitter, it should probably be the pin post. And maybe, I don't know if Patreon has pinned posts. Do they have pin posts? I don't know if they do. They must, right? You would think?
I would think so.
I'll look into that. But
I don't
either
think
way,
I've ever seen a pin post.
yeah, I don't think I have either. So either way, lots of details there. And if you want to just do the free feed on Patreon, you can do that. There'll be some updates there. But yeah. Taylor Field, what did you think about this movie? Give you like like an elevator pitch on your thoughts on the last two, in case no one's heard them, and then obviously this movie right here in a non-spoiler fashion, which we're gonna do non-spoilers for about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll give an ad break. That'll be your chance to bow out if you haven't seen it, or you can come back later at any point. Go ahead, Taylor.
I really liked the first one because I just remember not knowing what we were getting into when I saw the trailers for it. I wasn't sure if this was like a paranormal, a spiritual thing, and I really like John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, so getting both of them in that film was really something that I quite enjoyed. And just how it unfolded and how they didn't reveal exactly what they were dealing with. It was still kind of mysterious. I like that. And then obviously the second one is a direct continuation, and they kind of highlight things a little bit more, but it's more so focused just on, okay, how we're dealing with these things and showing a little bit more of the world beyond just this family living in this small little bubble of a lifestyle, I guess. And we get a little bit more expansive. So I really do like those two films, and I think that they do a great job at not just throwing the monster in there as being just directly like in your line of sight, like this is what you're dealing with. Well, it definitely is visually like boom right there. They have so many scenes with these creatures that are in your peripheral vision, and just the way that they skulk around. I just really appreciate how they make them unique, and they don't just shoehorn them in for the sake of like, oh, we have a monster here, we're gonna make this the main big cheese, we're gonna just put this in every single scene of the movie to try and sell this movie. It's none of that. It's just it's almost like they understand that they don't have a huge budget. I'm not even sure what the budget was for the films, but I can appreciate that they didn't rely on churning out millions of dollars to just pump out tons of CGI creatures. And while the creatures are CGI, they look really, really good, and I think that they can really use the money to make them look good in those brief scenes. Again, those scenes that have the monsters are in your peripheral vision, and it's just very tense, and they're very like close-ups too, right? I feel like getting into this movie you see them more so like their whole
100%.
bodies, but
I think just in general and just the amount you see them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so here you go. So the first, man, good on them. First movie budget 17 million, but like to your point, I feel like that's the movie you see them the least, right? Like I feel like it's not until over halfway till you get a clean look at them. So budget 17 million, box office 341 million, and then the next one was a jump of 55 to 61 million. So they got that sequel money, and that was a box office of 300 million, but that also came out in the middle of COVID, or like kind of around then. So like obviously the box was a little reduced, and then for day one, the budget's 67 million. So that's kind of in line. Two and
good.
Yeah, 2 and 3 were the same. First one 17. So it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I this has just been a real big surprise. I'm quite at times blown away that we're we've come this far. I mean, there's a game for Quiet Place that's coming out, and just where we're
Mhm.
at now with this franchise and this universe, it's really quite something. And there's another Quiet Place movie that is on the way, Quiet Place 3. So I'm really, really happy to see where we've gone. And this movie really took me by surprise because it felt very different from the previous two. And it had things in it where the trailers made me think we were going to be kind of getting more of the same. And not that that necessarily is bad, because I like these creatures. I like kind of getting to know more about the origin here. And I feel like this movie, while it has moments that are slow and long, I think that it has a very, and I was trying to think of the word on my way home that describes this. It has a enduring, but hopeful, something that is there
Don't
that
think you got the
just.
word yet.
No, it's a tough word. It's a tough
maybe,
word.
maybe for the final thought.
If you drop this word in the game of Scrabble, you'd win the game. Let me tell you. But I don't know that word. So I think that this movie just has something, a little bit of a spark to it that is, like I said, enduring and just very positive. And I like that. It was a really nice quality that was mingled in here, on top of the fact that it's tackling different tribulations on top of what we've seen already in the previous films. So I think that it's nice that while we're already familiar with these creatures and familiar with this universe, there's still so much that we get to explore, and so much new things that we get to see, and things that the trailers, which I'm glad that the trailers didn't show a lot of the things in here with our main character and with other things too that unfolded, because I think that there's certain things that develop in this story that it was a nice surprise, and it was a good journey. And there were some scenes which had me like, oh, like on the edge of my seat. But yeah, no, I'm very happy with this movie, and I definitely recommend it.
Mr. Muss.
My sorry about that. Brief history with these movies is yeah, really enjoyed the first one. As Taylor mentioned, like a lot of surprises came with it, and also yeah, like the John Krasinski angle of like, I've only seen this guy in The Office, and I love him there, but what's he doing? He's directing, he's acting. What's going on here? And yeah, really enjoyed the movie. Really great stuff there. And then the sequel just did not do it for me. I could not even tell you why anymore, but it just did not impact me in a big way. You have to go back to our Golden Geeks of that year, I think, because I didn't join in on the review.
I think so, yeah.
What I remember. So, yeah, it just didn't work for whatever reason for me. But I've been pretty excited for this one just because of the trailers. I thought were really well done. And yeah, I overall had a really good time with this movie. I think it definitely went through some waves. I'm not going to say a roller coaster because it wasn't that drastic, but definitely some waves where, the start of it is kind of what you expect. We get into the action pretty quick, and all that stuff is fun. And then I feel like there is some pacing issues. I'd say like just in the middle of the movie in general, there's some weird pacing. And I was feeling like, man, there's some weird writing going on with some characters here. But then I think when we kind of get to, I guess, the third act, I feel like it actually does come together in a big way, where there's a couple reveals that kind of come together, or I'm starting to understand these characters in a deeper way, even though there isn't a ton of dialogue. There is more than I guess I even expected to some extent. But it started to come together, and I think by the end of it, it actually tells like a pretty good story with a nice metaphor for, I guess I won't say what, but I'll just say a nice metaphor that I think comes together in the end for me. So I'll talk about that in the spoilers section. I think maybe my biggest disappointment here is I'm just gonna have to be complete opposite of Taylor. We feel like the trailers didn't show things and you got some good surprises. I feel like most of the action sequences were really kind of like the best stuff was in the trailer, and I didn't feel super surprised by what I was seeing, just because a lot of like even the big moments that we're building up to in individual scenes of like, okay, the tension's building, what's going to happen here, I knew what was going to happen because I've seen these trailers before. And also unfortunate that this movie trailer played at like every movie I've seen in the last like 3 months. I feel like I've seen these trailers like so many times, which is not something I love to have happen. But
And it is a shorter movie too. It's not like one of those where it's like the trailer. Yeah, it's not like the trailer shows like I feel like if it's two hours plus, you're like, okay, there's probably lots we haven't seen, but it is just around, I think it's just over an hour and a half. So it's not a, like, it's
Right.
for today's standards, like what a block, like I think it was what, 2022 when we had like this and we had like John Wick, or sorry, not this, like the Batman John Wick. We had like that run of 6 months of like 3 hour movies.
Mhm.
So for a blockbuster or something in that vein, it's kind of on the smaller scale. So
Yeah. Yeah, so overall, I did really enjoy it. I think by the end, like those issues I had with pacing and character stuff really did kind of resolve themselves. And I think because it is a short movie, like you said, like when I had that sequence when the pacing was weaker, it's like, oh yeah, well that wasn't really that long when you compare it to these these 3 hour long
yeah.
movies as you're talking about. And yeah, Lupita and Joseph Quinn, like really great, really great here. Obviously, a lot of this movie is I mean, there is a lot of dialogue too, but a lot of it is just facial reactions or like, God damn, the reflections off their eyes in this movie are just like top tier. So yeah, I had a really good time with it when it's all said and done. I don't know where it would go in my ranking. Definitely above two.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever rewatched the first one either. So it's a little fog. I do feel like I remember it pretty well, but I should give that a rewatch. But hard for me
Yeah.
to say which one's my favorite of the two.
I wanted to do that before this, and I honestly just completely forgot. I was at the gym this morning at 5 a.m. I'm like, oh, I meant to rewatch
Yeah,
all
it's not one
those.
that you feel like you need to, right?
But I still want to because it's just like, oh, like it, like especially the first one, like you said, I don't think I've ever rewatched it, but I remember loving that one. Even the second one too, when we saw it was at the drive-in, so like I still really enjoyed that movie. But there's times where the drive-in, like, there's a quality to that's great, but then there's other quality like the sound that is not great when you're at the
Right.
drive-in. So I feel like I've never properly seen the movie, and Mr. Oppenheimer's in there, so maybe this is a prequel, so maybe I will watch those in the coming weeks or so
Mhm.
as like the sequels. So yeah, this one's very interesting. I think the best way I would describe it, because I think that it kind of feels like there's a few. I think there's like three things it kind of feels like. The first one is like they had multiple short stories or short story ideas, but they're like, well, also we can't do like a bit. We're not gonna get the budget for that, and people aren't gonna go out to pay to see like a 25-minute Quiet Place. So what do we do? There's other parts of it that feel like it's an anthology show where it's, if it was like, oh, this, I can't remember, HBO used to have the show where it was like room something, and it was always, each episode took place in this room, and it was always something bad had happened in this room. And that's what this feels like. It is the same characters, don't get me wrong, but I feel like lots of the equations you could swap out the characters and put different ones there and it would work. The other one I feel like, it's an odd thing to say for The Quiet Place, but the best way I would describe this movie is kind of like a slice of life in the Quiet Place universe. Now, I know 1 and 2, I guess, are that, but I feel like that is almost like the more main campaign with the family. They're working on like those satellites or radios to take a bunch of them out, right? Like it feels way more main campaign of like, this could kill all the things, or this could save us, or this is this island that could save us all. There's always this big objective, where this is like a very minor objective other than just surviving. Especially our main character has a very minor goal, important to her, but very minor goal. So that's why it feels like a side quest. It feels a lot like, I think it was episode 4, whatever that episode was with Bill and Frank and Last of Us. To me, that's what it feels like, where you got Joel and Ellie, that's the main campaign, the main mission, but then we take this great little detour to see their life. And that's what this feels like, where it's not, oh, we found a virus, or it's not like, you get to see, it's minor spoilers, you get to see, of course, like I'd say the day, like day one, but it's not like you're with astronauts or the government and they're explaining what's going on. It's not that. It's not like the origin really per se. It's just, here's the town and this is when everything went to crap, right? And the rest of the story is much more personal. And I wasn't expecting that. I don't know why. I wasn't expecting this to give us the answer of how to kill these things, which I don't even remember. They have a name or something. I wasn't expecting that, but I thought, oh, they might weave it into some sort of main continuity of working with certain characters down the line or with the government. But no, it's really just about these two people trying to survive this situation. And yeah, Lupita, I've always said, like, it's her, Pugh, Emma Stone. Like, to me, those are like the Trinity right now for the female actors. They're like, those are the best of the best. And she can, like, just even look at the past few years, like just from like 12 Years a Slave, Us, and this, if they always feel like a different person. It does not feel like Lupita.
Totally.
It's crazy.
So
So
like her voice in this movie, I've never heard that voice
yeah,
before.
yeah. Because I was trying to think of Us. I'm like, gosh, she didn't sound like that in Us. And Black Panther, she's a different accent. So it's crazy. But yeah, she does great. Joseph Quinn, again, he's a guy that, like, I'm happy because I feel like stranger things happen. I've talked about some newscasts, and then I feel like people got sick of them because like that Eddie character got really popular. But I'm happy to see that it's not just he had one good role and maybe that was it. Like this role is completely different than the Eddie role, and I feel like he's fantastic in a tough role at times. He could play a character that could be on the verge of being annoying, but it doesn't go that route. But you could see the twist it would go that everyone would be like, I hate this character. This character brought the movie down. And yeah, again, like already we see her a lot in the MCU, but this just gets me even more excited for him as Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. This performance is like nothing I imagine other than one scene that Johnny Storm would be like, but I just think from this and Stranger Things, he's the same as appeal. Like we're seeing his versatility, and there's other people in here. Classic Jaimin Hunsu's in here for like a cup of coffee as usual. Alex Wolff is in here from Hereditary, so you got that going
He
on.
looks
But
so. It took me a few minutes to get used to the look of him in here, just with the big beard and all that.
we were talking about the car because Sam asked like, where do we know this guy from? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Hereditary, there's Jumanji, but those two they really anchor it, and they did a great job. You couldn't ask for two better anchors. So yeah, this is a good one. I don't know. That's why I need to rewatch them. I don't think we'd go above number 1. 2, I need to rewatch just because I don't remember, because I did like, I think I still had like the 8.59 realm. I just feel like I remember that one a little less, where the first one had so many kind of iconic moments with the fire truck kid and the pregnancy and Krasinski and the waterfall. Like there's, I feel like almost every 20 minutes in the first Quiet Place there's a scene or like, oh no, I think that's the second one, right, where she steps on a nail, or is that the first one?
That's
still,
the
actually?
first one.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like I think all the big moments are of the first one, where the second one I just kind of remember Cillian Murphy's a shady guy and he ends up being a good guy, you know. So and I will say Quiet Place 2 though had that great opening of day one at Krasinski's house. Remember when they're playing the baseball game? That was fantastic. And I think they do a good job here. That dread of what I want in the trailer of the day one, the events going on. I think they nail that. I think there's a few, I guess my critiques of why, spoiler, it's not going to be a perfect score is one, another reason why I want to rewatch them. I felt like this relied way more on jump scares, and to the point where I was like,
I agree.
getting annoyed with it. Like there is one that I don't care. It's like a minor spoiler. It's like a dream sequence. I'm like, get that out of here. We don't need that there. And the first one they don't show them that much, and the second one they show them more. This feels like the most we've ever seen them. So I felt like they were like, oh well, are they like, not that they're not scary anymore, but what new can we do with these things, because they're going to be in like the broad daylight and we're going to see them so much in this movie. And it's like, well, let's have them jump scare a lot. And to me, I didn't need that. And then there's a few little plot moments where I just go, I understand. I get the character's motivation somewhat, but it's a leap of logic for you to go do this thing and put your life at risk. And it happens kind of multiple times, especially one really egregious one where I feel like they just need a set piece to happen. So they just have this constant plot device that keeps pushing them to danger. And it kind of got a little old after a while, but nothing major negative. So overall, I really liked it. I would recommend it to really anybody, unless you don't like horror. Like the good thing is you legitimately don't need to see those other two. It has nothing, like I said, as far as tying in, nothing. You could watch this on its own, and it's its own movie. There's no reason to see Quiet Place 1 or 2. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's I think a good win for this year. So I'm excited to see where it ranks in the future. So anything else?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna
spoilery.
we're gonna take our first break, and then we'll be right back with the spoilers. All right, we are back. If you didn't like that commercial, didn't like the bad ad break, head down to the description down below for everything you need to know. That's where you go to Patreon. We talked about that earlier with GeekVerse.ca, but you can get this episode ad-free and many others. Get other episodes early, like our Alien retrospectives, and next week, every month we do about 2 exclusive episodes. We're recording those next week, so lots of good stuff. We would very much appreciate the support. If you dig what we do, that is the best way to support us. And if you can't, just like, subscribe, join the Discord. That's always fun. So yeah, where do we want to start with actually, I want to ask you, say one thing. I was surprised when you talking about the trailers, Dylan. The whole stuff of like the bridge blowing up and everything like that. I thought like the first act of this movie, a lot of the moments that were happening were going to happen more in the middle to the end. So that's one thing that was refreshing to me, that especially because it got more into nighttime, there's lots of cuts of characters just getting hit and then they go unconscious, so that progresses time a lot quicker. But a lot of those moments in the first act I thought were going to actually happen a bit later down the line. Like even the stuff with Joseph Quinn, I thought it was going to go event, Quinn, Jaimin Hunsu, nighttime stuff. But so I did like that, where I feel like, okay, they mixed it up a little bit in the trailers from instead of an A to B point. So
Yeah, I that was something that surprised me. And I think it is an odd choice, which is that pretty quick we have like the opening sequence, you get introduced to your character, and then we're in New York. We have a little puppet show, and then that's when everything starts going down the first time. But then yeah, we take a break for like a half an hour, and then we get to the point when she goes through all these adventures. She ends up back. She's walking down the street with a million other people, and then it's
Yeah.
like almost that day one sequence again. And so I thought that
Yes.
was a bit of a strange pacing choice, and I also just felt like, man, would these people really all travel in a pack like this together? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to backseat Quiet Place, but like, I would not walk alongside that
One
many people, especially if
sneeze.
people
Yeah.
are, one sneeze, exactly. People are so loud, people with their chairs, and they're bringing their suitcases and just stepping on glass and stuff. Like, there's no way I
Yeah.
would stand there. So that maybe stood out a bit to me, but I just felt like that was something that felt a little bit forced so that we could get another one of those sequences. And I wonder why that choice was made to, like, I guess they just, for the pacing of it, so there wasn't just like a half an hour of crazy action at the beginning, and instead it's like, oh, here's 15 minutes of intense action of like the inciting event, and then you get another 15 minutes of it later. So I kind of understand why it was done, but I think it was a bit goofy or a bit clumsy the way it was put together.
I'm with you. I understand why it's done, but I wonder. I'd love to see a version where it is just one scene, and that could be a lot. But I feel like there's some movies, especially maybe like war movies, that you have a long sequence that is very intense and very heavy, but then
Yeah.
they take such a. And maybe it's also they just didn't want. They wanted some character moments, and they worried that if they did all the action and then a lot of that character stuff in the middle, people might check out because it's almost too much talking and too much. Because I felt like, not that I didn't feel like our theater didn't enjoy it, but I felt like there's some people that came there more for like the like almost more for like the haunted house aspect of the first one. And I think this has that, but I think there's a lot of long breaks of that. So maybe that's why too. They just felt like people might
Yeah.
disengage with it, which I wouldn't, but I understand what they're going for the main appeal. So
Yeah, and I think part of it too is like when we get into that second inciting event, that was like, okay, once again, we're getting a lot of scenes from the trailers that I've seen multiple
Yeah.
times where she goes under the car and the guy's like, help me, help me. And we talk about in the trailer. It's like, what do you want her to do, man? Like, that makes no sense. So maybe that was part of it too, that it was a bit of like, okay, I kind of know
Yeah.
what to expect here. And so the intensity of it wasn't quite the same. Although, I mean, put me in a theater and blast loud ass sounds at me, like my body's always going to be shocked by that. So
Yes.
I was still tense for sure, but maybe not as tense as I could have been if I didn't know that those sequences were going to pop up again at some point. But then I
Yeah.
feel like the last, maybe even the second half of the movie, I feel like they really didn't show much of any of that stuff in the trailer.
No.
So that was when we got into a bit more surprise territory, which was nice.
Definitely the ending, like that whole third act, like the
Yeah.
escape and everything. That was nice to not show any of that. But yeah, no. So it's, I agree where I found it odd to the pacing, and I always remember, like I kind of forgot like how much there is dialogue in these movies, but they don't talk. So it is odd, and this is not a name against the movie. It's just like just how I'm feeling, because I guess this is something to say. I didn't see Quiet Place 1 theaters because I think that's around the time Gwen was born, and then 2 I saw in the driveway or the drive-in, not the
In
driveway.
the driveway.
Some guy's driveway, just looking through the
hey, you want to
window.
watch Quiet Place 2? Yeah, sure. So this is the first one I saw in movies, and it's like it's so odd to have extended like 20-minute sequences with almost no sounds whatsoever, and you're in a theater where it's supposed to be, that's a selling point, right? So that was an odd experience for me, but it was
Especially
one of
with the
those-
guy next to me, just the loudest popcorn eater of all
was
time.
he?
Just throwing
Oh,
his
no.
arm
He's
in the
dead day
bag.
one.
Some
Those
guy
things are
dropped a
getting him.
huge fart a couple aisles back too. Yeah, it was not pull a Taylor here. It was not the most ideal theater situation. There was multiple
Dylan's
groups of teens in front of me with like their phones on at like full brightness.
This is why you're staying out of the
Oh,
crowd
man.
when everyone's hurdled together, right?
Yeah.
I
What a
like
fart.
farting and
Some people are like, "Oh, I like a good theater experience when everyone's cheering." I like a nice empty theater. I want to be like Bo was afraid. I want to be the only guy in that whole theater, just live it up.
Yeah, Taylor, he's experiencing your Lego 2 moment. Dylan's just gonna look back with his shirt over.
Thankfully,
Oh,
the guy was a
yeah.
few rows back, so I
Yeah.
didn't get a whiff of it. But it definitely, the monsters would have been, which apparently are called Death Angels. The Death Angels would have taken that guy
Right.
down in an instant.
Terrible name. I'm
I
sorry,
agree, I don't
Krasinski.
like
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
come up with a
sorry.
new name.
Yeah, something a bit more, I don't know, scary even. But yeah, so it's one of those, like, even though the beginning, the first act has a bit weird pacing, I think when the day one stuff happens, I'm all fine with the actual Mina Lapita's character and like the cancer ward and the show. Like, I think that's all nice and everything, and they build like enough for me to care about Alex Wolff and their relationship if it's like and awkward. They're friends, but he is kind of her caretaker. So I think that was fun. But yeah, the day one stuff, it is like the day one break, day one, and then like another long break. And it's tough too because I feel like because these movies get so quiet, I guess that's my point, is you get these loud sequences and then you just come to a screeching halt where nothing's happening in the movie. And sometimes it goes on for a while, and that's not a negative thing. It's just it's just odd sometimes when you have such long sequences. But no, I think the actual day one stuff, I think that was good. I think there was a couple moments at the very beginning they didn't show us, as far as like the bus and like I love the sequence of, like I said, maybe they did have this in the trailer, but it's the very first one where all the dust is around and you just kind of see little glimpses of people or the thing, and it's just getting taken out and everything like that. So and then yeah, we got to meet Jamin Hunsu, and he just, I guess, saved her, I guess, and that was about it. You know, like he was like, I'm not sure if he's there for sequel bait because he's there at the beginning, then he goes away, and I was gonna look over at Taylor because I was like, and luckily he came back at the end, but I was like, did I miss something? Like, where did Jamin Hunsu go? But no, she just left. So
She left for her pizza quest. Yeah.
yeah, which fair enough. It's like I do get it in that route where we were talking about this in the car. If the world goes to crap, like your pharmaceutical drugs are not going to be being reproduced or produced at all. So if you have any type of sickness,
Well, she was in hospice too, right? That's where like you're at the end of the road. That's
yes,
the thing.
yeah, that's
Terminal,
true, right? So it's like there's not much left. That's one thing I did like. The main objective was she wanted to get pizza, and I can't remember the character's name. I'll have to look it up. What was Joseph Quinn's name?
Eric.
Eric and Eddie. There you go. That he just was afraid to be alone, even though there's lots of people around throughout this movie, so he could have, like, you know, glommed onto them, but he at the beginning just didn't want to be alone, and then they build this connection, and I thought that felt like a genuine connection as well too throughout the movie. I bought that. So
Yeah, I mean, I found him such a surprising character because in the trailers, you don't really get a vibe of what either of those characters are going to be like. I don't think Lupita says anything. I didn't know if she would even speak in this movie at all. That's why it surprised me when she did talk. But yeah, because he pops out of the sewer, or the subway rather. He's like drowning. He pops out of the subway, and he's wearing like business attire. So I'm like, okay, I guess he's like a businessman that's just popping out here. And then he just follows the cat around.
Yeah.
He's follows the cat to Lupita, and then he's just following her around. And it took me a while to understand what was going on with him, but I think to me that was one of the better kind of metaphors or comparisons between them and then just like a metaphor outside the movie in general, was just this angle of anxiety. And he's clearly an anxious guy. He's on his own. He doesn't have any family. He doesn't have anywhere to go. And so the fact that her service animal could sense in him this anxiety immediately and just like comforted him in that moment, and that's why he was so attached to the cat, which then led to, you know, being more attached to her and wanting to stick with her. Like, I think that stuff works so well, but I didn't really understand what was going on when it first happened. It took me until like, even when I was walking home from the movie, that I was like piecing it together of why exactly he was being so creepy and following her around, because he was really just some nervous, goofy little guy at the end of the day, which I don't know. I didn't expect him to be that kind of character. So especially with the attire he's wearing, I think that just shows how much like biases we have. He's a businessman, business suit and all that. And so I just expected him to have a very different personality than he did, but I liked that subversion of the expectation.
And I did like that he almost was like an animal or cat or dog at the beginning, because like there's a few moments where she would think they spend that night in her house, and she like quietly packs up, and then she looks behind him, and he's just like standing there like kind of like sullen, like, oh, he caught me falling, but it's just like you can't get rid of him. So Taylor, what do you think about some of these day one events? You weren't speaking of any of those.
Well, I mean, I feel like the some of the groupings and stuff, I know it's natural human instinct just for people to group up together, and it's still, you got to think survival and let that kind of overcome your natural human instinct. But when you see some of the other things that unfolded with like their Lupita's main objective, just get the pizza, that was something that was very grounding, and it just kind of pulls you out from this being necessarily like a whole world ending scenario. It's just, it feels much more grounded in just this New York City and just with what this person is doing. And it reminds you too that, okay, this person's not really looking out to survive, like they're trying to live to get to their goal, but we have to remind ourselves, oh, this person is terminally ill, they're not going to make it. And again, it's grounding. And I think you mentioned a lot of interesting points there with Eric's character, Dylan. I didn't make that connection until now. And you said that it's the cat being kind of drawn to helping him kind of calm down and his stress. And the cat always appears in each one of those moments, whether it's the pharmacy or he's just popping out, breathing for air or whatnot. And just, again,
He
you
should
have
stick away. He should stay away from water. 2 times having some bad situations.
2 times. Yeah, definitely. Well, he's redeemed. The third time he came back. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
he did.
there's
yeah.
that. But yeah, he was an interesting character, and I liked how he's just following Lupita around, and he didn't want to be alone. He was afraid, and he the actor, man, he really wow, he blew my mind. I mean, I'm really, really hyped on his performance. He did a really, really good job, and just you really felt emotional and really was just invested in him and his journey. Again, Lupita was fantastic as well. Both of them, their chemistry together was great. I really liked the dynamic and their relationship, and I loved how he was just like really there. Like I almost felt like he realizes that he messed up when they were in the tunnel and when they got out, and he's like, okay, what meds do you need? And then he went to go get those meds, and it was just a really nice moment. And the way that whole scene in the bar where he's doing the card trick and what, I loved all of that. It was just such a unexpected thing to pull you out of everything. And while all the stuff, like, you're right, Dylan, the action sequences from the trailer were definitely the majority of all of them in this movie. I don't, maybe I missed it, but I don't recall her being revealed to be like a cancer patient.
No, they just show. I don't think they show any of that. She just has the toque
Okay.
on, so that could
And
mean
that's
anything, right?
I think
that's
we had debated maybe on a trailer breakdown that we thought it may be a service animal. So like maybe we could have inferred something there, but I don't
Okay.
think that was maybe the only detail.
okay.
I don't think I
Yeah.
was on that cast because I agree with Taylor that you made a good point that I didn't think about.
But
that
I mean,
with the
service
cat.
animal can be for like anything. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean that she's.
Yeah,
give
no,
away
of
that she's a
course. I
terminal
just
patient,
didn't even think about like even with the connection with him, the cat. I didn't even think about that too. So no, it's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that being her kind of story narrative was very interesting. I wasn't expecting it whatsoever. And again, it changes up the dynamic here of how things unfold. But yeah, you make a point, Travis, with there being different kind of like short story ideas almost, because all of a sudden she's here and she's got this little girl and this her older brother by this fountain, and what's going on there, well, they get shuffled into the crowd really quick. So it's like a small side kind of tangent, but then it gets rectified pretty quickly. But I like how there's familiar things that are exposed in this world, where it's the fountain with the water noise going off so you can talk a little bit, or it's the rain and the thunder when they're kicking the doors down. Like, lots of little things. And it just made me think as well that, man, a video game in this world, I could see it doing really, really well. A lot of like timed events
I
kind of
hope
stuff.
so. Yeah,
I
because
also
I was
feel like the sound mechanics could be really hard to get right.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because I was thinking about that today because I know that trailer. I haven't watched it, but that trailer came out last week, and I was like, this could be a cool game. It's like that also
Is there
could just
gameplay
be.
in that trailer, by the way? I didn't end up checking it out.
I didn't see the trailer either.
Okay.
Taylor,
Put
did
on
you
my
see the
side.
trailer?
I didn't see the trailer.
There you go. So
I just knew the game's coming.
I thought the same thing of like the concept, of course, like, yeah, let's make a Quiet Place game, but it's also like that must be extremely hard. Like, I feel like the people that made Hellblade, like that's the blueprint right there, right? To do like, and that's not even exactly to do that, but they're so big onto the sound design and that having a big thing. I feel like you would have to go sit down with them and be like, hey, give us a couple of tricks of the trade because we got to do a whole game around this, right? But I think, like Taylor said, there is something of like a time with the lightning, and I did like those sequences. I like the sequences when they just both scream because obviously a terrible day, and I also think for me because she saves him multiple times, I feel like they do grow a connection. But with the meds, with the pizza, I feel like he does know, but I mean like legitimately he's just like, hey, this character who has been good to me or this person that has been good to me is on borrowed time, and I want to try and give them the best send off as possible because she multiple times brings up the boat thing, right? And at the end, he does decide to go to the boat. It's not like, oh, he's going to stay here. So I just like that he was going, okay, well, I don't want this person to die alone. And if they are going to die alone, like at least their last few days can be something good, and the pizza, the bar. And that's the only time where I was like, okay, I'm excited to see his Johnny Storm because I think he was very fun and charismatic in that scene when he's not even talking. It's just his facials and his motions and the stuff. So I think that was, again, they had such a cool dynamic of they're not even together that long, and it changes multiple times throughout the movie in a natural way. So it was very well written, that two together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found too. I think there was like a nice comparison between like she just had this kind of constant pain, and obviously she needed
Yes.
meds for all sorts of reasons. But she also had like that patch that would pretty much cool like the actual pain symptoms she would experience on the minute-to-minute basis. And obviously, as you mentioned, he goes and gets that, which cools it down. But I feel like there was a nice comparison there between that pain, which is almost just like similar to the noise, like the constant noise of New York, and then like the noise that is created by these creatures, which is like a nice comparison of like how they can only seek by sound, and there's always like these quiet moments when they strike, but then they're just like the loudest fucking things ever. So it's kind of like this opposite too. But yeah, I thought also like the just opening of the movie when it was like in New York City, there's a constant degree of 90 decibels, whatever it is, which is like a constant scream, which is like that's like a nice horror movie type of line right there. But then I think it also just kind of compared nicely to the anxiety of his character and then like the pain of her character. Less anxiety in her start, more so like just the constant pain. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of really nice through lines on those things.
Did you guys take it? Because it's one thing that, I like to look at the meanings and the themes and the deeper thoughts. The puppet, I didn't figure out, like, why was she getting so emotional over that? Does anyone have anything for it? Because at first she's annoyed to be at the show, and then they do this whole thing. And I actually like the scene. The music's good, and I love the contraption with the balloon, and the kids are having a good time. But then she starts to actively get upset about it, and I didn't know. I couldn't draw the line of from her story and what she's dealing with to the puppet in that performance. I don't know if it's just like in general just feeling down, but I feel like it's triggered by that. But I didn't know. So,
I wish I had something cool and smart to say, but I don't think I have a. I don't think I have a theory for that. I mean, the only thing is during that scene, just he's blowing up the balloon. He's going around for a while. And then, like, the balloon pops, which is very similar to, like, when all the shit goes down with the other monsters. But, yeah, I don't know if I guess I'd have to watch that again because maybe I didn't get that from her performance there, but maybe I just missed that.
yeah, I mean, maybe I read too much. I just thought she got upset, and she did leave. Now she went to go leave to get pizza. But, no, I was just wondering. But nice scene, and I think the movie does that more than the other Quiet Places where they'll just the bar scene, there's probably another one in there where they'll just take about 4 to 5 minutes to do something. It reminds me very much of stuff in Last of Us or video games where it is just like, oh, you and Joel are at the zoo looking at this thing and you're learning about giraffes or something, right? Like it felt like it did that in this movie, and I think for the most part it worked for me. So
you guys were mentioning the water earlier. I think they did a good job because I don't remember it ever raining in Quiet Place 1 or 2.
I don't think so. They just found that waterfall. That's about it.
Okay, I forget the waterfall scene. It's been a bit.
That's where they go to scream and talk and stuff. Like
Okay.
Krasinski brings the kids there every once in a while
Nice.
because it's like the rain, like Tara's saying, like it's a
Yeah.
constant noise.
Suppressor.
So,
Yeah, I gotta watch that again because I really liked how much they just emphasized the power of water all over the place in this. Like obviously the like borders of New York City. Like New York is really perfect for the like I guess for the setting of this because it almost is just like this giant moat, and that's like the safe spot. And obviously they took out the bridges, and then there's the sequence with the subway. He pops out of a separate subway that's full of water, but then like the fountain where the kids are hiding under, and then like the various like rain sequences and using that as a suppressor. I just feel like they really displayed how in like multiple ways water is just like the way around these things, and whatever planet they come from must not have anything like this because they're clearly not adapted to it in any sort of way. Just is their crux, I guess.
Well, it seems like they like to reside in more of like a hot, humid kind of temperate, I guess. And I just say that based on the construction site where you see the fires going on and whatever it was that they were eating or doing, and the cat was licking them too.
That's interesting because I think that's a smart thing where you go, okay, like I said, Quiet Place 1 and 2 have elements of discovering how can we kill all these things. I think this is smart to get into. Like, it's funny, we're doing the Alien retrospective right now, right? And I feel like as same thing when those films go later on, they try to introduce more lore things, and we talk about that every week of what works and what doesn't. But I think this was a smart thing where it's just something little where it feels like they are kind of somehow producing their own type of food. Because at first I thought, okay, it is an alien thing where it's like babies, children's offsprings, but it wasn't. It's this thing that looks very similar to their skin, whatever palate, but it breaks open and they eat it. So that's why I was wondering if it's something like, I know this might sound gross, but the way our body, like when we eat stuff and we get rid of stuff we don't need, nutrients and minerals we don't need, I wonder if that happens with these aliens, but it's like it takes that, like it distributes the stuff you do need and then they can reheat it. I don't know, because that didn't look like something that was just like on, like, obviously they weren't on ships or meteors, but it's not something they took with them, like, oh, here's our food we brought from planet X.
Yeah, I guess is that what's going on? Like that was one of the spots where the meteor crashed, and so they're going back to it because it had stuff with it.
I guess maybe, yeah.
I guess that because if we have to think about like, okay, well, why did these things get sent the way they did? Like, was it just random chance, or were they sent like this, and therefore it makes sense that the thing they were sent on also, contains nutrients, as you're mentioning, that they need. But yeah, my first instinct when I saw it was that this is like an egg that they had planted.
Me too. Yeah,
but then it very quickly that was not the case because they ripped it to shreds. So yeah, I guess that must be what it is, and that would make sense for why that area was so on fire. I just thought like, hey, they're just smashing through buildings, so it makes sense. But yeah, I guess that is an interesting angle to it.
Yeah, and I like this. I like
that. I love that it's like a small, tiny little lore detail, and you kind of have to take a guess or make a theory, or this is like a perfect time to go hit up the Reddit forums and see what other people are discussing.
And it's not some main plot point of, oh, we gotta get these eggs or nutrients or destroy them or something. It's just like this what's going on. So I don't know. I'm
for the audio listeners, Taylor, in the video, this guy's fading quick, and in the private chat, he just says, "I'm gonna go get a Zoa right now." So I love that.
It's late night for the new dad, but so I think that's the smart way. In the same way of, I always hope that how many quiet places we get, like. I think we've talked about this with Alien. It's like, I think whatever they reveal of why these things would have came to Earth, we'd be disappointed. So I hope it never really gets revealed. It just stays that way. And same thing with this egg thing. Like, I don't need an answer. I'm fine with it being like, okay, it's some sort, because I feel like that works from the human perspective too. I guess it would make sense to get an answer if we follow main characters that are like scientists or something, right? But if it's just this guy who was, I think he's trying to be a lawyer, right? Was that what he was trying to be? I don't expect he should not have some side objective of like, well, I found these eggs, and if we do this, like, no, he just wants to get out of there. And they're already like that. To me, that was something where I think you did something a little bit more on why his connection with the cat. I thought that was still one jump too many for me, for him to climb up this scaffold to get this cat, especially because my issue is that every time they lose the cat always just finds them. So it's like every time it's been okay. And I just thought that happened. And I think there's one or two other scenes too where the cat is like the inciting incident of how they get in this trouble. Like the cat runs away into a room and goes there. So I wish they only did it one time. And especially, I can understand if it goes into a room, but literally this is like when he looks up, there's like, you can see things there. It's like looking like a home base. I was like, I get you want to get that cat, but climb that scaffold was something. And I guess another thing, we've seen it before, but they tried to do like a bigger zoom in on the innards of the aliens, and I enjoyed that because I feel like they're doing their best job to make it look very almost kind of fish-like, like more gills and stuff, or insect-like. So I like that wasn't just like, I don't know, just
bigger variants too, right? Like that one that lifted its head up when he was on the beam, that was the big cheese. He was top dog. Yeah, he was huge.
Alpha male. And no, I agree with you. I think that scaffold scene was a little clumsy, and even though I think post movie I like it more than when I was in the theater watching, just because of these. When I've thought about this a bit more, I still think that scene is a little clumsy, and it's very much there because they want to get also that little bit of lore dump, a little additional info. So it makes sense why they did it, but yeah, I think it could have been a little cleaner.
And this didn't bug me. Like this isn't really a negative in the movie, but it did take me out of it just because I wanted to think about it. If you guys were in the situation they were, when they get in the water, and they swim down that thing. Now, granted, one thing I can't remember because we went on a different track. Taylor brought up something with water, and that's one thing I like, that this thing like drowned very easily. So again, it's like they probably have like very little to no experience with water, if at all, at their planet. Because I would just think the size that would be able to maybe go a little longer than our human characters, but it didn't. It was just like
Well, I mean, I think the big thing with it is that once they're underwater, like think about when you're underwater and how poorly you
Yeah.
can hear. You can't figure anything out. And obviously, we usually swim in like environments when it's light, so we can see. But if they're under there, they can't see, and their ears, their ear thing
That's
heads are
true.
getting filled with water. They're probably just completely lost. They don't even know how to get out of their environment. And so I think it's more so that than like, I don't know, water is just so
Bad
powerful.
lungs.
It's super effective against them. It's more just that they just can't locate themselves, and then
Yeah.
they just get trapped and die.
But to me, I thought that was a bold move from our characters. As far as I get the idea, you go in the water, there's some ambient noise, and you can walk. But I just feel like if they could hear him breathe when he went ugh, and then that they heard him right away. One, because they're walking first. One bad step, one splash. Like, I just felt like it was a very. I felt like the risk versus reward situation. Again, our characters live the made on the other end, but to me in the real world, I just thought like, other than to escape to get to the boat, to go in this water, I feel like his water is very loud at times. So I feel like you can make some
I
noises.
mean, they
so
had heard that
bold.
like government message at that point. That was, that loudspeaker, the helicopter, or whatever. That was just like, water is their weakness, or whatever he said.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they were thinking. But also like behind them in that really tight subway station. I mean, there was one right behind them, so I feel like it was kind of a split-second decision too at some point. But yeah, I don't know. I can see where you're coming from for sure.
Some good shots though in there, and I love that shot of when they do hear the noise, and then it's the thing on the roof like climbing and running to him.
Yeah,
That was really good. I enjoyed
That was a good
that
shot.
aspect, and now that they like shine a flashlight, and one's kind of like, I think, sleeping or just kind of chilling. But those were, I prefer that. Again, was not a fan of. I feel like especially the first half of the movie had tons of jump scare, especially the day one stuff. It's like, I don't need this. The world's going to shit. Like, this is already scary enough. But I think they were hitting that those sounds a little too much for me here for me to enjoy it. But
I absolutely love the cat in this movie, which in the credits it looks like there's two cats
okay.
doing the acting there. I couldn't tell when it was CGI versus when it was real. That's just how good it looked.
Yeah, I agree.
The cat was amazing. Amazing acting there. So shout outs to that cat, Frodo. I forget what his actual name is. I'm sure he's not on IMDb, but shout outs to that
No.
cat.
We'll get them for GeekVerse movie.
I would take this cat and its acting over the Argyle cat any day of the week.
Well, the
Haven't seen
Argyle
that
cat
one
was
yet,
mostly
uh,
CGI.
It was mostly CGI, yeah.
Is it better than Garfield though, which just came out?
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Mhm.
I'll say it's better than the original Garfield.
I
like
guess
the
that's
original
Chris
live
Pratt
action.
acting. So
Yeah.
how good do you feel about Chris Pratt's acting? That would answer that question.
I guess we're gonna have to have a Golden Geeks Argyle Garfield. This cat,
Best cat
best animal.
We should have done it in what it was 2019 when Cats came out. We should have
Yeah, we
started the
did.
category.
Yeah, but if we do best animal, like next year we got Crypto the Super Dog and Superman and stuff, and
Okay.
Rocket just is gonna be the fucking Meryl Streep of that category. Anytime Rocket's in there, but no, we gotta do real animals. But where else we want to go here? Hansu, he's always great, but yeah, I was surprised how little him and Alex Wolff were both in this. I thought Alex Wolff
Yeah.
would bite it in the first act, but I thought he might be still in like a little more, and he didn't. So he's had an interesting career since Jumanji and Hereditary. I thought.
Yeah.
I just didn't think I thought this was. He's not a big actor, I guess, but I just still thought it was too small a role for him. I was like, I feel like he should be booking more gigs in this. Unless it's just like, hey, I just really want to be in a Quiet Place movie. And we got this one character, cool, I'll do it. So maybe that's it. But I just was expecting more. So
Yeah, that's my theory. He was in Oppenheimer too. Remember for like a scene.
right, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, I also am in the same boat. Of course, I wish he had kind of taken off a little bit more since that great Hereditary performance. He actually lasted longer than I expected because I forgot he was in this. I mean, I know we talked about it previously, but I don't think he was ever in a trailer, right? So, or maybe he was in the background or something. I didn't recognize him. So he was in it more than I thought. And then Jaimin, I guess he was in it about the exact amount I thought he would be. And he's
Really?
doing his Jaimin Hunsu thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd be on the main quest with them. I didn't think he would live. I thought he would get taken out. I guess probably early on, so I was surprised about that, and I would be down to see him brought back again. I think if they
Day 2.
if they do a sequel, like even if he's not the main character, just have him pop up. He just becomes like the Turk of like the Quiet Place universe, where
yeah.
he just pops up and everything for like
Yeah.
a scene or two. I don't know. I mean, I'd be down if he was the star, but I think what he does here is good. Like that moment when he has to accidentally kill the guy to save the rest of them.
Brutal.
I think the emotion of that was well done, and the way he keeps looking back over his shoulder to see if his son was watching was good. He's a good actor, so he's good even in these small roles.
I thought he'd be a little bit more, and again, because the trailers, I thought he'd be a third act character, so I thought he'd be a character that might like guide them to
I
somewhere
did
or help
think
them out.
that sequence from the trailer would be much later on.
Yes. Yeah.
So I agree with you there.
I thought he was gonna die earlier on.
Damn.
Before we got to Eric, I thought Eric was gonna be his replacement, which he kind of was, except they just didn't
Kinda,
kill
yeah.
him off. But yeah, he was good, and he was there to save Eric at the end, and was probably wondering like, why do you have that woman's cat in clothes? Like, what do you?
Especially, the cat. I thought they would have said something about that, but they didn't. But
They didn't.
yeah, what an interesting career Jaimin Hunsu has. You know, like this is like what he always does. He comes in a movie for like 10 minutes, is always good, and then he just disappears. He never has like a big role. Like he has a couple in his past, but it's so funny. Like the generation of GeekVerse wise.
What's like his movie? What's his
Blood
best
Diamond? It's him
I've
and
never
Leo.
seen Blood
Oh,
Diamond.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in a while.
That put him on the map, and that because he's a supporting character.
I can picture him on the from
Yeah.
that movie.
And I
actually.
think he got nominated for an Oscar too, but that was the one that
Okay.
put him on the map. And then now he's just relegated to like this 10-minute guy.
Is
you
that a
know?
starring role or a supporting in that one?
It's a strong supporting. Leo's definitely the star.
He's like the number 2 or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So
Okay.
I don't know. Someone make
We're
Jaimin.
gonna do a Jaimin retro series.
What I want is get Jaimin in some cool A24 horror movie. That's what I want. Have him lead that. That's what I'm pitching A24.
This is
like,
kind of taking him down that road a little bit.
Yeah.
He's almost there. Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
One very random thing at the start of this movie, when it was still like the studios playing, one of the studios is Platinum Dune, which I hadn't heard of, and I thought that was like
Oh, really?
the aliens' planet at first, and I thought we were going
Okay.
full backstory, and this is like their home planet, and I'm like, wow.
Title
This is
drop of the planet. Platinum Dunes is their home planet.
I guess it would make sense. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Michael
I was
Bay.
fooled for five whole seconds, but then
Yeah.
quickly came back to reality.
That's Michael Bay's production company, but I guess that makes sense because
Okay.
you haven't seen the Transformers, and then he did a lot of the horror remakes in the
And
2000s.
after watching the Transformers 1 trailer, I'm not seeing that movie either. So
Oh yeah, I'm not a fan of that trailer, but I think I think we talk about newscast. I think that one is more geared towards like the kiddies and stuff.
yeah.
But I think that is a Bayless one though. I don't think he's a part of
Bayless.
that. Yeah.
No
There's
Platinum Dunes to be found.
Yeah, no platinum. There was a surprise amount. There was like a bird logo. There was Platinum Dunes. There was Paramount. There was Sunday Night. There was another one. I was like, how many people?
Yeah.
How many companies are on? Because usually you get that with a lot of independent movies, right? Because like we don't have the funding, so let's get a bunch of people
Who
in the pot.
owns Quiet Place?
I think just Paramount, not Krasinski. I
Okay.
don't think he owns it. I think he's gonna always get like money as like a credit for creating it, and he did
Like
do
a
the
writing
story.
credit for like
Yeah.
creating characters.
And he
or-
still wrote on this. He got a story by credit. I don't know if he was a screenplay, but I can't.
But is that
like-
just a case where like all the Alien movies have like the original writers as
No,
writing
that
credits?
would be more so the two of those would be like characters based on
Oh,
like
yeah,
from
yeah.
Ridley Scott or the EP, like an executive producer. But a story by means like he pitched some of this. Like I don't know what portion, but he definitely
did
did like
the
the
sequence with
treatment.
the kids. I bet. Wow, with the fountain. That,
Yeah.
that seems like a John Krasinski kind of moment there.
Yeah, so and I could see maybe the lore stuff too, because maybe they'll go to him and be like, hey, we don't want to step on your toes. Like, you know, what could we add here? What could we not? And even the day one stuff that could be like, hey, what do you envision this? And I think that was a good choice too, because I know we get lots of movies in New York, but as we talked about when we did do the trailers, to see it in a bigger city, I think that worked. And even though, again, we saw this also in the trailers, I still really like the sequence of them in the city when it was like foggy and everything. I thought that was well done. So again, lots of good sequences. I don't know if there's like a scene. I'll have to wait till I rewatch. I don't know if there's like a scene on here. I'd have for Golden Geese is like that was the scene, but I think it's
For
like,
me, it's the pizza scene, the magic.
okay.
magician
Yeah,
scene,
I could get
guess.
that. Yeah,
Mhm.
but as far as the big set pieces, I don't think I have any. I think it's just a bunch of good
I don't
ones.
I don't think there is one for me. I felt like the ending sequence when he's running off the dock. I actually felt like that was maybe too quick. Like I
I
don't know
agree.
what they would have done to extended it, but I think not every movie I guess needs a huge Act 3 action sequence, but it still did feel a bit too quick, and it was really fun, and it was surprising because it wasn't in the trailers as well. Really
Yeah.
interesting. I love the idea of her just running around, smashing windows, activating car alarms. I thought it was really fun.
That end sequence there actually, like, I'm glad this wasn't in the trailers, but I don't know if I would nom it, when Golden Geeks rolls around, but just the whole scene of just the boat honking its horn, and you just see a herd of these things, death angels, just walking along the shore, just staring at it, and they're stalking
Yeah.
it slowly. That was terrifying.
Dude,
I'd
it's
worry
like
about that horn.
it's like that scene in I Am Legend when the zombies or vampires are just like looking through the beam of sunlight, just waiting for that to shrink, and then they
Yeah.
can chase down. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought that the third act have a bit more to it, and it is one of these things that obviously they run in Quiet Place 1 and 2, but I feel like there's a lot more running in this because it was the day one event, and it always confuses me where the PETA can go and hit a bunch of windows and be running and they won't catch her, but Joseph Quinn will kick one can and he will run and they'll know exactly
Fair.
where he is, and that happens through all. And I don't think that really takes like a big point off of the movie, but majority of the movie this happens a lot where sometimes I feel like when they run they track them, and then sometimes when they run they don't track them at all. So I feel like it's a very kind of iffy thing going on. But again, it's just
Yeah, I guess
nitpick.
the one. I mean, because obviously they didn't go down the road where she gets killed there, but she
Yep.
was totally fine if she did, and I think maybe that's a bit of a difference where she was okay.
Mhm.
She wasn't trying to. I was just trying to stay alive for a little bit longer, but it
Yeah.
wasn't be all end all. She was just trying to save him in that moment.
And I think this is my last note that I have to bring up, that I was talking about this with Taylor Maz in the car, and Taylor was the other side of it. So for me, I thought for sure the ending that we got of her getting Joseph Quinn, Eric to the boat, and her gonna kind of take her own life while she's there. I thought, okay, that's 100% the route we're going. I just thought, and I'm not gonna say it's better, but maybe my mind's a little bit better. I thought it was gonna end with her playing the piano, because they talk about the piano so important to her dad. They have that whole scene where she's like touching the piano, but she won't hit a note on it or anything like that. So I thought for sure she was going to go back and just wail on that thing, and that's when it would get her. But no, they went with the iPod route. So I was surprised. I thought the piano would have hit a bit more emotionally better to tie to the dad. Not saying the other scene was bad, because I think it was a fun that they timed the creature dropping right when the beat dropped there. So I think that was still good, but I thought there was a tad bit of a missed opportunity. But nonetheless, still I think I was satisfied with that ending, and I don't know if that's a better way to die, because I'm sure it's still painful, but I don't know.
I think you go quickly.
I hope. What if they they split you in half diagonally wise, and you're
I
there
think she's
bleeding
seen
out?
enough people get absolutely just one shot that she was probably feeling pretty safe about it. But no, I think that's a fair criticism. I think the piano stuff maybe did feel a little underwhelming, but I did really like that ending. And as you mentioned, much earlier on in this review, I love that this journey for her is just like the quest for pizza, but
Yep.
that has so much more meaning to it.
Mhm.
And at first, for me, I was like, really, that's her motivation. But as the movie goes along, you really understand the deeper meaning behind it and connection with her family and her dad, and then even just I feel like they were playing too at the end of the movie how she's going back to her neighborhood that she grew up in,
Yeah.
and she remembers it as a kid fondly, and it was quiet and it's peaceful in this place. It's sunny at that moment too, and that she can go back there and it's quiet now. And I don't know. I think it was just really, really well done. Really nice, nice sequence in general. I also
Also-
love.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just the angle from her of the start of this movie. She's in the hospice. They're doing that round table thing. They're all talking. She shares her poem,
Yeah.
and she's just I hate this guy. I hate this place. This guy smells. This guy sucks. This guy's music sucks. And she's walking down the hallway, and he's like, that was kind of mean. And she's like, yeah, I'm an asshole. And she's just very open about that. And it's jokey, but it's still yeah, she is still being kind of mean. Given her circumstance, she can do whatever she wants.
Mhm.
But I love that underneath that, she was still clearly a really good person. She spent so much time to make sure that Eric was comforted with the sweater, leaving the note, giving him the cat,
Yeah.
helping her out, and then helping the kids too when she didn't need to. She was very selfless in that way. She had less to lose than other people because she was on deathbed anyway. But I still thought that was a nice angle to it, that she had that rough exterior but that soft core underneath.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think they for an hour and a half they fleshed her out to like the perfect amount where you felt it was well rounded. And I still understood the characters' motivations in them, so I think they did a good job. And again, what I was gonna say, my last point is I did like when they got to the pizza place and it was just completely destroyed, and it just almost felt like a heartbreak of that moment of, man, this journey was really for nothing. Like the only thing that was keeping her going, which is like just wants to die by at least going to this pizza place. But then I love that they bring it back around. They find this different pizza place, just writes the name on the box, gives it to her. Very, very fun moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice. My last nitpick of the people. There's a lot of dumb people in this movie.
There is in this
which
one,
is a
I think,
very
yeah.
it's a horror movie type trope. I don't know if you'd call this a horror movie, more of a disaster movie, but I felt like this is my nitpick one because there's a lot of dumber people. But I feel like I understand why these people later on set up in a church, because that's a place of hope and belief and all this.
Yeah.
But I also feel like churches, they're designed, especially churches like that are huge. They're designed to be so fucking loud and everything
Yes.
is really echoey. And, so when the preacher's doing his sermon, it just like travels through the room and people feel like God's talking to them, all that stuff. So I feel like it's a very risky place to set up camp because if one person drops a quarter, it's going to reverberate through that whole place and probably
They
call
had the water
monsters in.
backdrop too, right? Like you could hear the running water always splashing around when they're in the church. So that might have been an extra.
Okay, maybe it dampens some of those sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good call. I think it was my last note, actually.
Same thing here.
I'm gonna shout out another scene, even though it was in the trailer. I like when the helicopters are flying over and you see them just these creatures moving like spiders up the buildings. I like as well that the helicopters are actually luring these things away from the water so that people
Yeah.
could actually dock and get on
Really
the
cool.
boats. I think that was a really cool strategy. And I like seeing how they were handling the situation. And so before these things actually make land, you have the Air Force flying around New York, and you have like them preparing. I just think that's like obviously she's not going to get the latest memo from the government on what's going on, but I just think it's interesting, and I like seeing that kind of background stuff of what the world's doing, and just have a regular average person just living their life, and shit's kind of hitting the fan.
Yeah, props to the people in charge there for really getting these things dialed down pretty quick of figuring out how they tick and how to lure them. And they're not 100% effective. A lot of people die, but I feel like they did pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah.
Especially in a city like New York that is so populated.
For an event, they probably weren't roll calling either. Like I know cops, firefighters are always probably trained for fires, bomb attacks, terrorist attacks, shooting attacks. Maybe I'm wrong, New York Fire Department. Let me know if you're trained for if the helicopter.
Sound-based monsters,
yeah,
death angels,
just
specifically.
alien in general. Like anything crashed from the ground attacking. Like, are you trained for that? If you are, great. But they did it well.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Taylor?
Oh, I think that's all I got for scenes.
Give us a rating then.
I wish I could remember what I gave the second one, because I remember I did the review with. Well, I mean,
Me.
you.
It
Yeah,
was
it
just
was with
me.
you. Was it just
Yeah.
you and me?
Yeah, because we
was
saw on the
in-
drive-in, and yeah, Kirkland hasn't seen them. And then for the first review, you were sitting in Dylan Moss's parking lot.
I was in front of Dylan's house while you and Briggs were reviewing the movie. I was waiting for my invite.
One of my favorite stories ever.
At the drive-in, it was the first one, and then the second one right after, right? But an early viewing of the second one, isn't that what they did?
I don't remember them showing the first one. That's
I
something you
thought
might have
they
made up.
I thought they
but
did show the first one.
I think it was
Anyways,
the first movie of the drive-in. Yes.
Yeah, it was. It was a good time. I really enjoyed this movie, and it caught me off guard. So my rating, I'm gonna go with it's higher. It's actually higher talking with you guys. I'd probably go. I feel like I'd go an 8. I think the down to earth, the grounding, humbleness of just these two characters that are just never would have met each other in any shape or form, but because the end of the world happened, that it just brought them together, and they've really helped each other get to where they wanted to be in their life considering it's the end of the world. I just think that it's a really neat, interesting story, and it was really engaging. It's not devoid of having its slow moments, but there's a lot going on that I can really latch on to, and it's something I would really, really like to watch again. Like I said in the starting point of this episode, I would highly recommend people go watch it. And if you didn't watch it and you just wanted to listen to all the spoilers, hopefully we convinced you to go and watch it because it's a good time. And
I
I'm
just sorry to cut you off. I just pulled up our review, or your review, because I wasn't on it. You gave it the second one 9.5.
Did I really?
You did.
High
Yeah.
praise.
That was young Taylor for sure. That was
It was only 2 years
Very
ago.
young. Your camera was pointing from a different angle. You had a hat on. Travis had
Yeah.
very short hair in a very red room. He was the gauntlet. Travis was the Geek Gauntlet champion at the time. Taylor's
wow,
nickname
what-
was Whose Boat Was It? It's a whole different era.
What good days, Gauntlet champion.
my
My
goodness. Yeah, I was very frivolous with the numbers back then.
God. Boy, that sucks. For
Why, do you want to retroactively change your rating for number 2?
I would retroactively change my rating.
You gotta
for number
watch it
2.
again though. You don't know what if you watch it again because
Yeah,
you
I'd
said
watch
that
it again.
Suicide Squad. Like, oh, it's probably not a 10. And then when we did the commentary track, you're like, yeah, this is still a 10 out of 10 movie. So, yeah.
Sorry, did you give a review, Taylor, or a number on this one? Because I was.
I don't remember.
listening
Did
to
I?
you-
Did I? Did
was
I?
listening to your
Okay.
review for number
Just
2.
went over my head already. Like, did I?
You said
I
8.
cut you off there.
I
sorry.
thought like,
That's all
I
good.
remember 8 because I thought that was lower than you were gonna give it. That's why. So yeah, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9 on this, and I feel like there's enough like little things that could detract from it, but you know what? I'm just gonna drop a 9 on it. I'm gonna be optimistic today. I'm gonna be happy.
Boom.
Yeah, there was little nitpicks here or there, but for the most part, I think I was not expecting how well this movie tackled like anxiety as like a theme. And I think they did a really good job there, and it really came together. Some really nice scenes, and like I like the runtime. That honestly makes me so happy. How
Yeah.
many reviews do we do? We're talking here. There's like a couple things we maybe wanted extended, but I feel like most of our reviews are like, yeah, you could have shaved 10, 15 minutes off that. And I feel like
Yeah.
this movie, it was just the perfect thing. So yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised by this. Really had a good time. So I'm good with that score.
Except for Disney Plus shows, we're never saying, "Oh, you could have shaved a few minutes." We're always saying
Yeah.
those are the ones like, "Oh, give us some more." But no, I'll join Dylan with the 9. Like I said, I think there's a few moments with the little few pacing, jump scares, and a few character decisions where I go, "Okay, you just need another set piece here." But all in all, still great movie, ranking high this year as far as what's come out right now. And yeah, I think it kind of met my expectations because I had lower expectations, but a couple of trailers that came out were really good, so that hide them. And I think it met them. I think the only thing was difference was maybe just of how small scale it was in a certain way, but that's something I end up enjoying. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for myself too, and really
Right
enjoyed it. And not sure what's next for this franchise. Not sure if they do part 3 or they decide to do other areas in the world. I think you got to be careful with that because you don't want to oversaturate it. But as of right now, I've liked all 3, so I would still be down for a 4th, whatever it may be, and go from there. So.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Quiet Place. Let us know on the YouTubes, the Twitters, Facebook, or the Discord any of your thoughts, your questions. If it's something, a question specific maybe about this, we can tackle maybe next time on a newscast. But until then, I'll not be boring.
See ya.